another day, another man gets a woman or children killed in the wilderness, but this time he is getting charged. Last week we talked about that dad, that hero dad who literally took his children hiking so they would die. Come to find out, not an accident at all. Definitely not a hero. But this man, this mountaineer took her on the highest mountain in Austria in January to summit in January, an inexperienced hiker, and she died. And you will not convince me that that was what he wanted. At best case scenario, he was so selfish that he wanted to do what he wanted to do, which is climb, no matter what. And I'll just take this bitch with me. Why not? Because I'm going to do my thing. But I actually think it's worse than that, because the way this man acted in terms of like turning off his cell phone so that the rescue crews couldn't find him, this looks like premeditated. So I just want, before I go into this story that's maddening and also not surprising, is that the tide is shifting, because that dad, this one, last time I talked about it, my video got demonetized, so whatever, for the word, because we can't even talk about this, what men do. This man was finally held accountable, because people are kind of stuck. They're not buying the whole, hero dad thing so much when they start to look at the evidence. And in my last report of this story, I talked about it right when the story came out, and I wish I had waited a little bit, because they kept calling her his wife, and there was no mention of her leaving him. They were trying, that changes everything. This man wanted to punish her. That's what men do. A lot of these men will literally take your children's life, or just, be family annihilator rather than get divorced. But what brings me hope about this tragic story, if there is a silver lining, is that this man is getting charged. I don't think I've seen a case yet. Doesn't mean they're not out there, but I never see men get charged for this. So I've been talking about this for years, about how men will either accidentally, recklessly get people killed, or they will purposely do this. Most of the time, it is just because of their hubris, their recklessness, their selfishness, and and their addiction to adrenaline and all this other stuff and adventure, and not really caring about the needs of others, even others like their own children and partners who are trusting them in the wilderness. Do not trust these men in the wilderness. Unless this man has shown throughout your entire relationship that his character is trustworthy, but even still, never trust them over your intuition. But this man is getting charged with manslaughter. Let's go into it. This makes me so angry, but the hope is that in this case, the law is like, no, we're not buying it. You put this woman in danger. Whether it's intentional or not, we don't know, but you put this woman in danger, and you're going to be held accountable for it. Now, I don't know anything about this mountain, but I looked into it a little bit just to give you some context. First of all, this is what it looks like. It is one of the toughest challenges in the whole European Peaks project. You have to cross a glacier on the way up, and the last part is very exposed, so securing ropes is essential. I've seen several articles and blogs or whatever in terms of advice for this mountain, and most of them say, you need a guide, like a professional paid guide, and you also need experience. This one says you need both mountain climbing and glacier experience to climb successfully and safely this mountain. I recommend a mountain guide to everyone lacking these experiences. Now, the guy who took her up this mountain was a very experienced person, but he doesn't seem, from what I've read, to have been a guide. There's also photos that I've found, and during the summertime is the main time people climb this. And, it's not Everest. I think, Everest is 24,000 feet. I forget. This one is 12,000 something. But I've climbed some 14ers. And one thing that when you climb any really high mountain, you always want to summit. In Everest, you're supposed to summit by 2 p.m. That's kind of the standard in general, though, because even at Everest, you have snow and horrific weather. But even in the summertime, in some 14ers, like in Colorado, we made sure to summit at between 12 and 2 at the latest, because that's when usually you want to summit by noon. Because usually the thunderstorm, the lightning comes in. When you're above tree line, you are the thing that's going to get hit. You do not ever want to be above tree line when a lightning storm comes in. There is nothing taller than you. Plus, you can get hypothermic, like all kinds of terrible things. And you know what time they summited? 2 a.m. He kept pushing in January. So, anyway, this is not a deep dive on this story. I have so many things I want to do that maybe I'll come back to this if there's more information. They, privacy things, they don't say any of the people's names other than the lawyer. But they have, footage of, look at this. So in the pictures they're talking, so first of all, this man left his girlfriend. I have read 2 different accounts. I've read that he's 39. I've read that he's 36. I don't know which it is. The reason why I'm saying, this is not like some dumb 20-year-old who's full of whatever. Everyone I know when we were climbers in our 20s, we didn't have the wisdom, the experience to understand how dangerous some of the things that we were doing was. But this is this is a man in his late 30s who is supposedly an experienced climber. What the hell was he doing at that hour, that time of year, with a newbie? Again, I'm convinced this man wanted her to die. And when I show you about the cell phone stuff, you might agree with me. So it's 6 p.m. They saw the glowing lights, and then just 6 hours later, the lights began to dim with low battery, and the woman's strength gave out. First of all, why are their lights going out? What? What kind of emergency light only lasts 6 hours? I have multiple headlamps. Those headlamps last for 100 hours with just 3 tiny batteries in them. What? Obviously the emergency lights are brighter, but this man seems so unprepared, and I think that was on purpose. Then image captured at around 2:30 a.m. showed the boyfriend pushing on alone. So he left her at 2:30 a.m. almost at the top of this mountain and went down alone, leaving her in the freezing snow with little equipment. At 7 a.m., webcam footage captured a helicopter soaring over the mountain, but the rescue mission had to be aborted due to strong wind. Just under 3 hours later, 6 rescuers were seen at the scene, but the woman was already dead. So this was them, right there. This makes me so angry. What the hell is anyone doing all the way up there at that hour? They should have never kept going that late. The boyfriend, who is an experienced climber, has been charged with manslaughter by gross negligence and is facing up to 3 years in prison. Just so you know, that doesn't sound like very long. I don't know about Austria, but in France, sentences are way lower than in pretty much everything than the U.S. For y'all may have learned about that with the Pellico case, the Giselle case. 20 years for 100 grapes. At approximately 2 a.m., the defendant left his girlfriend, left her at 2 a.m., unprotected, exhausted, hypothermic, and disoriented about 50 meters below the summit. So they summited that late. And then when they were just below the summit, in an area that I described earlier is very exposed, very dangerous. That's where he left her. The woman froze to death. Since the defendant, unlike his girlfriend, was already very experienced with high alpine tours and had planned the tour, he was considered to be the responsible guide of the tour. Now, I don't know when they say he was very experienced with a high alpine tour, that means he's been a paying customer on them, or if he is experienced guiding them. My guess is that he's not a guide, but because he assumed the role of a guide, because they're very clear that you should go with a guide, that he is being held responsible as if he was a guide. And I love to see that. There's no way this woman would have done this mountain if she had informed consent about what she was getting herself into. So this says he was 36. A different one says he's 39. I don't know. They haven't released his name. The 36-year-old did not take into account that his girlfriend was highly inexperienced and had never undertaken an alpine high altitude tour of this length. Now, anyone new here, if you don't know me, I was a whitewater raft guide. I was a backpacking guide. Did canoe trips, 23-day backpacking trips. I've been a climber for a couple decades. I know this world very well. I lived in my truck for 5 years in this world. And that is why I talk so much about do not trust most of these men. Some of them, yeah, but most of them, no. I worked with some men that I would never get in the boat of because of what I saw them doing. Complete lack of respect for human life. Okay, y'all. So he was also accused of starting the tour around 2 hours later than scheduled, which it sounds like he still started it too late, even the scheduled time, while not carrying any sufficient emergency equipment. Even when he had left his partner to get help, he allegedly did not bring her to a wind-protected place. You know, a lot of people, when they die in the wilderness, it's of exposure. Because if you literally just, even the dad in Utah knew that if he's going to leave those kids up there to die, he at least better make it look like he tried to leave them in a safe place, which is why he put a teeny tiny area, put them in an area with shelter. Although he knew they were going to die. He was hoping they were going to die. When you are exposed, I don't know if you know what it's like to be in wind like that, especially when you're freezing. But wind is so stressful. For those of you who don't know, whatever. If you've lived in a city that's windy, you know some of this. But when you're in the wilderness or just in nature and the wind is that strong, you are bracing like this from this whipping wind. And you use up so much energy clenching your muscles just because of the wind. It creates so much stress for your entire body, hearing it whip around, feeling it. It's so violent. Plus she's probably not even in capelline she's probably in cotton. He probably told her to wear cotton for all I know. I would love to know what she was wearing. Well, she wasn't wearing the appropriate shoes. We know that. But she probably was wet and cold. Because the sweat will make you wet, which is why what you wear is critical. If you don't take anything else about outdoor stuff from this video, in the winter time or whenever you're cold, cotton, we used to call it the fabric of death, okay? Do not wear cotton when you're gonna get wet and it's cold. Even if it doesn't rain, your sweat will get things wet. In the summertime, if you're overheating, wet cotton is great. Anyway, so he did not bring her to a wind protected place, and he did not use a bivouac sack or aluminum rescue blankets. I don't know if that's because he didn't have them, because he didn't bring much. It doesn't seem like the proper emergency equipment. But I'm curious why they put this line there unless he had them and didn't use them. The boyfriend had also allowed girlfriend to ascend the mountain with a split board and soft snow boots, equipment which is deemed unsuitable among mountaineers for a high alpine tour in mixed terrain. So one of the things when you are hiking, your shoes are so important. If you go hiking with boots that are not you have to protect your ankles from rolling. You have to protect your feet. You have to have shoes that are not going to slip and slide a lot. You want boots that are waterproof. And I don't alpine climb. All right, I have Renaults. Okay, I don't even know what that is. I can barely climb. One of the reasons why I don't ski is because of Renaults. I don't ski anymore because I tore my ACL, but I was a ski instructor, but I stopped trying to do winter sports so much because I have Renaults, and it was so hard for me to stay warm. And so I can't even speak on the alpinism part of this because I haven't done it much. Due to my hands being so cold, they turned white and they hurt. And it was just whatever. I'm still trying to figure out how to keep my hands warm, even in the city. But the fact that this man let her walk in shoes that were so inappropriate, that will literally set you up for disaster. When I was doing 23-day I'm going to move on with the story, I promise. When I did a 23-day backpacking courses with teenagers, one of the kids threw out his back and all of us carried this enormous kid. He was, he was like an adult for a 15-year-old. He was bigger than a lot of men. Okay. And all of us, these teeny tiny 12-year-old boys, 13-year and 14-year-old boys had to carry this kid out 2 miles. And the one thing that we kept stressing, we have to keep our boots dry. Do not get the boots wet, because once the boots get wet, your socks get wet, then we're going to have blisters, maybe hypothermia. Having the right shoes and keeping them, and we did. We got that kid out, and then right at the last minute, search and rescue showed up, took over and started telling the boys to do all this and ordering them around, and the boys had to go through a creek the wrong way, and they got their boots wet. So they search and rescue, whatever. I'm very grateful to search and rescue in general. There's a bunch of men who came in and thought they knew more than us and ruined the kids' shoes for the next several days, right? The day before we're about to summit the biggest mountain of the whole 23-day trip. Anyway, I'm still a little bitter about that. Click! entirely. All of this to say, the boot situation alone was reckless endangerment. Shoes are critical. Experience is critical. What time you leave is critical. All of these factors, this absolutely makes sense. But I'm not even to the worst part yet. Given the harsh weather conditions with the wind speeds up to 46 miles an hour and temperatures of -8 degrees, which felt like -20 degrees. I don't know if you felt that before, but I was a ski instructor in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I lived there for a winter, and I didn't know how cold this was. I was lived in Montana for 5 years, but it's like, this is fucking cold. This is so cold. God, I can't imagine being on a mountain stuck in this weather for that long and being left to die. When combined, the defendant should have turned back earlier, according to the public prosecutor. Yup. He shouldn't even have gone, but he should have turned around a long time ago. Look at this. At 7 a.m., the webcam. Look at this. This helicopter was right near where they were. But the rescue mission had to, because of bad weather, they had to end it. But hold on, let me finish this. Despite the severity of his girlfriend's situation, the man has also been accused of failing to make an emergency call before nightfall. This is the part that really, you will not convince me this wasn't on purpose. The defendant and his girlfriend were stranded from 8:50 p.m. Oh my God. They were stranded. What the fuck were they doing? I didn't read this right before. I thought they summited that late. They were stranded from around 8:50 p.m. He allegedly did not give any distress signals when a police helicopter flew over at 10:50 p.m. Oh my God. Even if this wasn't on purpose, when I tell you do not date or go out with, or definitely don't marry men with fragile egos, men who will not ask for help, men who are too proud to admit when they're wrong, men who are too embarrassed to literally do something to save your life. They could have been saved. She could have been saved, but this man did nothing. After several attempts by the Alpine police to contact the boyfriend, this enrages me, he finally spoke to an officer around 12:35 a.m. So look at this. From 8:50 p.m. until 12:35 a.m., this man made no contact with people who could have saved her, even when there was a helicopter right there. Although the content of the conversation remained unclear, the defendant did not contact the rescue services again following this conversation. Tell me this wasn't intentional. He had put his phone on silent and put it away, and therefore did not receive any further calls from the Alpine police, according to the German news outlet. This is... Look at this. His lawyer says, my client is very sorry about how things turned out. When I tell you that the way, even when this man literally marched this woman to her death, they're always in the passive voice. Things are hard. Things turned out bad. Then it happened. Not I, blah, blah, blah. They only use I statements when they want to take credit for stuff that they probably didn't even do or deserve credit for. But anytime they're doing some fuck shit, it's always passive voice. It's always this other thing that caused this thing. However, the defense attorney still assures that it was a tragic, fateful accident. The way men love to be leaders, they love all the credit for leadership. And then whenever they're bad at it, oopsie, his trial is set for February. So a different source said that he missed several calls from rescuers, having allegedly put his phone on silent. His distress call was made only at 3:30 a.m. They allegedly, again, I don't know, feels like sometimes news outlets get facts different. But if they were stranded at 8:50 p.m., and he didn't put a distress call out till 3:30 a.m., how is that not murder? Because he didn't put a distress call out until 3:30 a.m., rescuers did not arrive until 10 a.m. and she was already dead. And it was the strong winds that delayed helicopter rescues at dawn. They were there. They were there when they were stranded. They could have saved him, but he didn't make any calls, didn't answer any of the phone calls. So when they finally could have gone back because they know, okay, they're definitely stranded, Too windy. See, this news one says he's 39 and she was 33, just so y'all can see why I'm like a little, might be off on some of my facts, because other ones, like, they say that he's 39. So I don't know. So, by the way, that peak is 12,460 feet. That's a big ass peak. Please stop trusting with your life. You have got to trust your own intuition. Anyway, thanks for listening, y'all. I as much as these two stories in the last week have been really upsetting, they actually give me a little bit of hope, because I do believe the narrative is I mean, I don't know, maybe they do this, they charge men with this in Austria or in Europe more. Well, I've never seen it. Have y'all seen this? I don't ever see charges brought against, and I've read several stories of women dying in the wilderness, alpine, all kinds of stuff, where I fully believed that man put her in danger. But I guess I believe the reason why he's being charged is because because his phone, just like that dad, there's a paper trail or a digital trail of him refusing to get help, refusing to save those kids' lives and this woman's life. And that refusal, I mean, the dad, clearly, I think he did that to get back at the mom. Everything I've read since I did that story makes it very clear. But this one, if it wasn't intentional, it just goes to show you how utterly selfish these men are. Because I will tell you this, even if it was not intentional, men who are like, that's why I wrote that article for the Washington Post. When you're married to adventure, there's, is there room for anything else? For the Washington Post several years ago, it was a reported story. And I talked to climbers and why women my age, women in their like late 30s stop dating climbers in general, is because men who do a lot of these extreme sports, I mean, men in general, but like in the extreme sports, for instance, everything is put behind that sport. So, I mean, I just think about my own dad, all right? My dad was definitely not adventurous, but he loved football. And even though he only saw his children a few days a month, we watched football. That's what we did together. I hate football now because of it. American football, refuse to watch it. I will not spend any more of my existence on this planet watching that fucking sport. And why? Because even though this man was like, I love you, and now he's like, whatever, he just could not put anything above the thing he loved the most, which for him was football. And for these adrenaline junkies, some of them are addicted to adrenaline, addicted to adventure. And I've seen it in the climbing world a lot, where a lot of guys, they literally get a girlfriend to be their belay bitch. Their belay bitch. They literally get a girlfriend because they just want to climb. And they find a woman who will fall for them and follow them everywhere, and they'll drag this woman up every freaking climb because they need someone to belay them. If they could climb these things by themselves, they would. Some of them do because they become soloists like Alex Honnold. The way these men will do anything to get that hit, it is literally like being with a drug addict or, an alcoholic who's chronic. They will put you in danger. They'll put you in that car. Like when they want what they want, nothing stands in their way. And they've been conditioned to have hubris. They've been conditioned to just be so individualistic because of patriarchy and not respect human life. Like their social conditioning turns them into like psychopaths sometimes, right? Our social conditioning teaches us to trust them, to center them, to believe them. And their hubris and their arrogance over our own intuition, which is very strong, but you got to get practice using it and listening to it. So when I'm not saying don't ever date a climber. I'm just saying pay attention to his relationship to whatever it is that he likes, whether it be sports, the outdoors, gaming, whatever. And if that man puts that above you regularly, you will not end up well. You may end up dead. Because he's got to do that thing, and if he's got to drag you up that mountain with no experience to get his hit off that thing, you are just collateral damage. But in this case, I don't think that was the case. I think this man wanted to torture. Picturing her dying alone on that mountain, it's different. I can picture people dying in certain situations. But like, that's why drowning deaths upset me, because I've seen people drown as a raft guide. And I have just been in, swiftwater rescue and stuff. So I know how scary water is. When I see other deaths, I don't have the same reaction because I don't know what that context looks and feels like. I don't know what that fear of being in that situation. Like, I can imagine. So imagining her freezing to death on that mountain all alone because the man she trusted so much left her and refused to get her help. I don't know. It hits different. I didn't realize I was going to be so upset by this story. God, I got to stop covering some of these stories, man. They're like really upsetting. But anyway, I did watch The Holiday, and I'm going to do a review on that. I'm trying to, anyway, go to my Patreon if you want to see other stuff, travel content, personal stuff, lives. We do watch parties, we do hangouts. We have a hangout on Sunday. We have a lot of fun over there. And I try to lighten things up over here sometimes. That's why I do all these dumb songs and puppets and stuff, y'all, because I know this is hard stuff. I know it's hard. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, boost, all that stuff. And let me know if you heard the comment song. And please take what I'm saying very seriously. Please. Okay, y'all, here's another comment song. It's from my old neighborhood in Lyon. This was my building on the left. The staircase I walk down every day with it. Like, this is just from the other day. There's always new art. Anyway, really cool art all over just this one alleyway. Look at all the flowers and the random stuff, and they have all just something new every couple of weeks. I like going by my old building. Now I live farther away from town, and it's not that pretty, but it's cheap, and I have outside space anyway. This church in my neighborhood, not sure what the protesting. I can't see the signs from here. These legs are all over Lyon. They stick out of the building. This is a terrible picture, and everything is just colorful stuff everywhere. I love random art all over Lyon, and so I'm sharing it here after a really hard video anyway. Hope you have an alright day.